So I've been meaning to get back to making short tutorial videos, and this is a great topic that I've been wanting to hit on. Sometimes I'll take friends' photos and so forth, and I'll modify them, and I'm not sure if they realize how fast this is done, but this is the tool that I use, and it's a program called Fireworks, and it's a classic, draw program, drawing tools on the left, tags and we call them layers on the right, and I've wanted to capture the speed with which I do this and the tools that I'm using to do this, because I want to find a better program to do this, but the problem is that Fireworks can do kind of a magical thing. It does vector and raster in the same program. So it's kind of hard for me to walk away from either side of that, although recently I've started using a program called Figma, which does a lot of the vector stuff really well. My girlfriend posted a photo. Here's the original photo. And I looked at it and I thought, okay, I can have some fun with this. And I only spend a couple of minutes anytime I do this. I mean, it actually takes me almost less time to do something graphical than it does even to write a message or something. So she posted this fun photo and she was already in this, dramatic position. And so, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So I'm going to actually just do the work right in front of you and we'll see how that plays out. Now, changing my hat now, I'm putting on my hat as an artist and designer. I look at a photo like this and obviously the lighting is really stark and difficult. So what I'm going to do immediately is I'm going to go fix that. And what I tend to do with an image like this is I want to use curves where I want to get the light colors to be lighter and I want the dark colors to be darker. So that's what exactly this tool right here does. So I can use almost any program to do this. That's why I'm not going to get into what keyboard shortcuts I use for things. But here you go. You can see I'm darkening the dark colors and I want to get them not too dark, but pretty dark. And I want to keep the light stuff as light as I can. One of my big complaints with all drawing programs is they do a really bad job of letting me click on handles. It just drives me crazy. But there you go. That's actually a little better there. Okay, that's pretty dramatic there. Now, it still has a big problem, of course, is that the ground was lit so well and it's so bright to begin with. But there's a trick we can do to solve that as well. And I'm going to do that just in one pass here. I'm going to grab a rectangle. I'll follow this line right here and I'll cover that whole thing on a rectangle. And let's add a gradient to this. And in this program that's here, so let's do a vector gradient. And what that's basically going to do is it's going to add an alpha channel to the blackness that I just did. So I apply that, and I actually can control and I'll have to shrink this down a little bit to get access to it. I can control the angle of it. Here you can see it in real time, see? And I can shrink it way down, I can make it grow it, and I could also change it to radial if I wanted to. And in fact, that may not even be a bad move here. I might just click on this and change that to radial. Let's see how it works. And I'll probably do the inverted color. There you go. But it's actually not so bad there. Just putting the brightness below her. But that wasn't my goal. So I'm gonna stick with the darkness here, and we're gonna tweak it until we like it. So I'm gonna bring it down a little bit near her feet. That's pretty good right there. Okay, good. And let's zoom in a little bit more so as we're working, we can see things better. Okay. So now that I've got it at least lit pretty well, and again, I only spent a couple of seconds on this, as you can see. What I'm going to do next. This is the most important thing, which is she needs a giant lightning bolt between her and the Tesla coil. So I went into Google, I type in lightning space PNG, and the reason I do a PNG is because I'm pretty much guaranteed to get back a image that has a knockout or its own alpha channel. That's what these little square checkerboards are. So I found one I liked, and here it is. And it basically means that, and you can see it really quickly here, if I copy and paste it down twice, I can have the object separate from the background color. Otherwise, it may be white or black in the background. And now that I have a copy of it, I'm going to bring it over to here, and I'm going to paste it in. It's going to ask me if I want to resize it or anything. I'm going to bring it back in its original size. Clearly, this isn't the angle I want, and so that's a little bit of a game to play. So let me rotate it at least close to what I want. That's pretty close. I want to make sure I can see her hands, and I would prefer that the largest bolt goes right to the device itself, so let's kind of point it there. We kind of want it to point in alignment with her arms and everything, so we want it pretty close to that. A little bit of an angle's fine. And it's still a little big, because if I want it touching, I want the tip up here at the top here to be pretty close to either the middle or the point of contact she would have. But now the big burst of light here is too close to her, so therefore I have to shrink the whole thing down. And I want to make sure I can see both her hands, just enough of her hands. There we go. That's pretty good. I can still mess with this. I like this little horizontal one coming off and touching the base, because that actually does happen. And let's get this right into place here. Good. Now, very impressive looking, but it's, again, we have to always keep an eye on our colors and our color balance. So I'm going to fix the hue and the saturation here, different ability. So I come over to here, up, purplish. No, I want to go the other direction. There we go. Ooh, nice golden color. I like that. I could lighten that up just a little bit. Let me see if that really, if I like the effect of that. Nah, I kind of liked it where it was. And saturation, always good to add more saturation. It makes pictures look richer, especially as silly as this is. It's sort of, what do you call this? Hogwarts type stuff. Okay, so now already impressive. But what's missing here is what I will refer to as reaction or reflection. And that's when you highlight things like in windows and things so that you say this thing is real in the room. Because if this really was exploding in the room, other things would be lit. Now, I use a trick to do this, and this, what I'm about to show next, is probably the most important thing and the most important part of this tool that I use all the time. And it's an ability to amplify art. And let me grab a star to do this. This is commonly what I'll do is I'll grab a star. I will click, if I can get right onto that handle, which is always a difficulty. Yeah, see, it messed up. I have to often do this several times. If they would just give me, I've even set the handles to the maximum they can be, and it still doesn't do quite what I want. So I usually do something like this where it has a little bit of a star pattern to it. Understand this is floating in front. I can move it around in real time. It picked up the gradient I did from the last thing I did because this program tries to figure out that you're doing the same thing over and over again. I appreciate that, but I don't need that exactly here. What I do want on this one is radial. So I'm going to change linear to radial. You put the black in the middle, so it looks really strange now to me, but I can flip which side is the dark, which side is the light. So I'm going to flop those over. There we go. Now I've got this sort of burst that's nice. Next, I need to fix it from an anti-aliased edge to a feathered edge. And I don't want to be able to make out the edges, so I made it feather of 15 pixels, and that's pretty good. I got sort of this orb going. Now, unto itself, still relatively useless. What I need now to do is I want to apply this object to the background using a formula. And right here I have all these formulas available to me, and I happen to, and I like color dodge best. There's a bunch I could do. I could do a color burn. There's a color burn, so it's burning the color into it using this. And depending on what the color of the original object was, that's kind of useful. You can create some interesting effects with that. But what I want here is a color, let's see what we got here. Color burn, color dodge. That's what I want. There we go. And now you can see it's almost like that original lightning bolt. In fact, I can follow that lightning bolt, and it's picking up all the highlights, all the lightest colors, and lightening them. But it's leaving all the dark ones alone, or the ones that aren't even there. So what you can see here is I'm now able to almost put like a spotlight up here into the windows and onto the glass and all of that. Now, I'm going to throw some in, and I will usually just start copying a bunch of these all over the place here. So I'm just going to copy. I'll put 10, 20 of these into a picture sometimes. And when you put two on the same place, you can see here what's happening here is that it's kind of creating a greater effect. Meaning they're adding to each other. So when I bring them down here, like near her feet, which is something I wanted to do here, let me put one now down here, and let's do a third one. There you go. And I can change the size of it. We'll get to that in a moment. I'm actually going to lighten up around her a little bit so she looks like even her body is being lit because, or lighted. What you can see here on the right side of her body is there was some light coming off on the right side. If I was doing this really carefully and I was to spend some time, I would flip that lighting so that she was correct. If I was looking at a fake photo and somebody's asked me, is it fake? Those are the things I'm always looking for. I can see, instantly, wait, why is there a light on the right side of her body, not the left side of her body? People make mistakes like that, and they're messing up. Here you can see I'm moving the that original black and white thing I did, the translation from the dark to the light down the bottom, and I can control that, and that's actually now affecting everything, which is really nice. Okay, so just again, it gives you a feel of what everything is doing interactively, and this is the thing I can't do in most programs. They don't do everything so live. So now I want to start lightening some more stuff up. Let's get some light onto the Tesla coil. I throw some more down here near the lightning bolt itself. Let me click off that. Let me grab onto it properly. There we go. I might throw some off of the background here if I wanted to. I may actually do it over here so that it's creating the illusion that something is bouncing off something. So maybe right there. And again, just you see something off in the distance, you're like, ooh, there must be something reflective over there, something going on. I might hit the tops of this. And again, all I'm doing is copying and pasting this exact same object down over and over again. I definitely want to get some more underneath here. And that's pretty close. And then up at the top here, I want something. And the reason I want that is that that's the biggest reflection. That's the proof that what's ever happening in the middle of this room is also affecting that back wall. And that's how I ended up with this effect. And here was the first one I did. I did it pretty fast. Again, if I spent truly a total of 100 seconds making this image from scratch. And now you watch me even while I was explaining it to you, there it is. Hopefully that was a useful insight and a useful lesson, and I'll make more in the future. Feel free to ask me any questions if you want me to point out how I did something specific in here.